Hey everyone, I am so happy to have Kedric Barrett on the program today. Now, everyone knows Kedric as their favorite uncle. That would be Uncle Ked. And
That's
for
it.
decades, his mindset was to live and eat without any regard to health. And his health spiraled out of control until his weight ballooned up to 460 pounds, at which point he found himself in a life or death situation. And after making some tough decisions, Kedric lost 245 pounds. Now, isn't that amazing? Now, I'm super excited, Kedric, that you're here to join us today. And I've been following you on Instagram. Man, I love your stuff. You're inspiring. My wife loves it. And I just watched you recently on a video podcast on the Bariatric Nation. Wow. You had my attention the whole time. I think that was like a whole hour, right? Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Hey, folks, Kedric is the real deal, and I'm super happy to have him on the program today. Now, Kedric, both you and I, remember I said sometimes my tangle gets tangled up and I started back and talkwards? Anyway.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, listen, we've got some similarities. We both had some significant weight loss. And when you told me that your title would be, I resonated with it like unbelievable. Okay. And so everyone, Kedric's title is When You Change Your Mindset, You Change the Game. That has been so spot on for me. Now, the first thing I think we need to do is find out who is Kedric. So tell us, who is Kedric? Dying to know.
Kedric is wow. I'm 47 years old, and it's been a long time coming. I started out, I just an average kid, man. I didn't have that sob story. A lot of people have asked a lot. Well, Ked, what happened? What caused you to get to be 461 pounds? Nothing happened. I love food. I mean, I just have an affinity for different flavors of food, and it just overindulgence and losing control got me to that situation. So nothing bad happened. I mean, I had a great childhood. I'm a married father of three sons. I have a 24, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old. And we're almost close to being empty nesters. Our 18-year-old is a senior in high school. So, hey, it's mom and dad time now. So that's where we are with that. And I had weight loss surgery April 26th of 2019. And that was a defining moment for me. And I consider it a rebirth.
Right.
Because I felt like I was given a second chance at life. And I said, if I, and I prayed going into the surgery. And I asked God, I said, if you let me survive this surgery, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later as to why I felt like I wouldn't survive it, that I would try to help somebody else.
Right.
So they wouldn't have to go all the way down the road that I went down, because I went way too far out of the way down that road. And if we could stop people and detour them, get them back on course, because people get lost. And, as men, sometimes we get ornery when we get lost. We know that different streets will connect at certain points. So sometimes we let that pride take over. We're going to go 20, 30 miles out the way.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And we wait till it's too late, right?
Absolutely. We waited until it's too late, almost too late. And so that's where I was. I mean, I was 461 pounds. And life was just going. I was at a point to where I like to say I was living to eat instead of eating to live. I mean, we know there's a difference between the two, because, of course, if you don't eat, after a certain amount of time, your body shuts down and you can perish. Yeah. But then on the flip side of that, you just living to eat, then that means you're overindulging. And that's the part that I was on. And when I had the surgery, little did I know how my life was going to be impacted, not only myself and my family's life, but being able to help other people now almost 3 years later. And it's been crazy, Daryl. I mean, definitely fun, man. Crazy and fun, to say the least.
Yeah, totally. So your title, When You Change Our Mindset, You Change the Game. That started obviously before your surgery, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because my mindset was such, I was pig-headed. I didn't listen every time I went to the doctor, and I'm a regular now. That's the crazy part about it. Now I am very regular with going to see my doctor because I wanted to know where I was health wise. And this is why I say this, because every time I would go to the doctor, my weight was going up, and she would always say, "Kedric, you got to do something because you're spiraling out of control.
Right.
You're going to be here long." And she
Yeah.
was constantly adding medicines and stuff like that. But I felt like, okay, well, they didn't put me in the hospital. I walked out of here. There's time.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. You know, my doctor told me at one point, he said, "Well, what do you like to do?" I says, "Well, I like to bike." He says, "Well, why don't you buy a bike?" So I did. I went out and bought a 1996 Kawasaki Vulcan 1100cc.
Not the kind of bike that he thought.
Seriously, I did that. And he said, no, not that kind of bike.
Yeah, right.
But sometimes we don't take it seriously when we need to, right?
No, and I didn't. I didn't take it seriously, Daryl, and I just felt like I can get to it. I'm okay. I was feeling fine. I was a person that was mobile, so it's not like my mobility was shot. It was just I started to get more and more underlying health conditions.
Right.
And that's where I was starting to spiral out of control. And it had gotten so bad to where I was pre-diabetic, hypertension, gout, acid reflux, sciatic nerve damage, knees and stuff were shot. You name it. And I was sleep apnea. I was on a CPAP machine. Been on CPAP machine for 15 years.
Yep, 20 plus years for me.
Just on a roller coaster to an early death. Mm-hmm. I was just riding the waves. And that's where I was. And it had gotten to a point to where my mindset came into play. When I said changing my mindset, when I got to the point to where I was afraid to go to bed at night because I was afraid I wouldn't wake up the next morning.
Yeah.
That was my wake-up call. That was when my mindset started to change, and I started to consider weight loss surgery because my primary care physician had been on me about 8 years there, I believe it or not, to try. Matter of fact, she'd been on me so long, she was trying to get me to do the lap band when that was popular.
Right. Did you try any other diets before?
Oh, yeah. I tried it all, man. I went to Weight Watchers, Slim Fast, which, ended up being Slim Slow, as the comedian said. None of that worked, It just, because here's what comes into play. If you're not educated enough on how you're supposed to be eating to begin with, and this is for anybody that goes to any of these programs, whether it's Nutrisystem, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, or if you try it on your own, if you don't properly get the education and the knowledge that a dietitian can give you, then, some people might make it out, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail at this because you're going to feel like you're starving yourself. You can't eat, and eventually you're going to give way to your cravings and your desires, and you're going to be right back where you started.
Yeah.
And that's
some people have adverse effects to things. Like, example, in the first 2 chapters of my book, I talk about my best friend, and him and I decided to do Atkins, and this is like 1994. And hey, I lost 60 pounds, and all he got out of it was a basketball-sized knee because he got gout so bad he had to go to the hospital and get it drained 3 times. So what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other.
Right, because the body reacts to things differently, and when you think about certain diets, especially with like keto and stuff that's going to put you into ketosis and stuff like that, anything that's going to, you're going to be indulging in certain things, and the body can't process a lot of that stuff, and it's going to bring on stuff like gout and, God forbid, any other things that, and for somebody like you, it might not. You lost 60 pounds out of the deal.
Yeah. Hey, I did Herbalife and lost 80 pounds. And then, of course, it wasn't sustainable because we were traveling around doing, clean water projects because we have a charity. And it was just too hard to get product wherever we went. And so guess what? I ended up gaining the weight back. And then about 10 years ago, I said to my wife, it worked for me then. I'm going to do it again. I did the exact same formula and I lost nothing. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong here? And then somebody enlightened me and said, dude, you're not 40 anymore. And I'm like, light goes on. I'm going, oh, you mean age has something to do with this? Well, yeah,
Right.
it does, right? Our metabolism's changed. I mean, there's so much, right?
Absolutely. And I think that in the process of trying to get yourself on track, like with me, for example, the last straw for me before I hit rock bottom, I'd started going to this boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked wonders. You know, I lost 60 pounds and started a new job and wasn't able to go and commit like I used to, and I gained it all back plus about 30 more pounds.
Mm.
And
Been there, done that. Yep.
yeah, this was going into the summer of 2018, and I'm like, okay, something's got to give. I'm very uncomfortable with everything. You know, sitting in my car, I got the seat all the way back as far as it can go. Anybody that sits behind me, they're going to suffer. Just dining out, just anything, man. It's just so I'm suffering. I'm hot. I'm hot in the summertime.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
hot in the time, and on top of the comorbidities that's plaguing me, I'm like, something has got to give. And so that's when a buddy of mine who I work with was going through the process of having weight loss surgery, and I already knew about it. And I was just picking his brain to figure out why he was doing it. And we were about the same size. And he was just telling me, hey man, these are the benefits of it. And I did my research. Well, he said a key word that I had never done before in life, and that was research.
Right. Yeah.
And that was the beginning of me changing my mindset. So, and he recommended his doctor, but guess what? When I researched his doctor, I found some stuff that I didn't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
so
you did your homework.
I did my homework. And so I ended up finding a place to go. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share. I went to Atlanta Bariatrics right here in the metro Atlanta area, Dr. Christopher Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest bedside manner in the world for a doctor. He told me on my very first consult that he's like, you're afraid, right? I said, yeah, I am. He said, I can tell you, it's okay to be nervous. He said, but let me tell you something. I've done this enough. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to get you through the surgery, but you got the hard part afterwards. That's on you.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
work afterwards is on you. I'll get you through the surgery. Don't worry about that. You're going to come through that just fine. And he was right
Yeah.
with everything. Surgery was great. I was at home before. I was at home within 3 hours. I didn't go overnight. But the hard part was yet to come, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I always tell people, and this is why we try to educate people now, because you want people to know that take this seriously. You're about to embark upon something, and people fall in love with the results when they should be falling in love with the process. They see me now, they see you now, Darren, and they say, oh, I can't wait till I get to that point. But what did it take for me, and what did it take for Daryl to get to this point?
It is not the silver bullet.
No.
Everybody has this preconceived idea. And hey, I've gotten the stinky eye from people.
Oh, yeah.
I've since told people, hey, you're going to have to wait till my book's out because I'm not telling you anything else. I mean,
Right.
But it's not that I'm not proud of it. It's just I think so many people are uneducated about it and they don't want to be educated about it. And let's face it, there are people who have had weight loss surgery that have gained a significant amount of weight back. But it makes me think, did they really change their mindset? Did they really change the game? I don't think they did, because it is no walk in the park. It's a lot of hard work. And trust me, once your metabolism restarts, hey, you're back to ground zero in terms of maintenance. It's no different than when you were 461 pounds or when I was 400 pounds. I have to maintain. I have to be careful. It's
right. It's hard.
Yeah.
I think the maintenance phase, Daryl, is tougher than losing the weight. I mean, that's the hardest part of it. I mean, seriously, because like you said, the metabolism, you're back to ground zero, and it's no holds barred, and you could easily, it's a slippery slope.
Yep, it is. It is. Absolutely. Wow. Man, we're preaching to the choir. Absolutely.
Yes,
And,
we are.
And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have folks on like yourself who have gone through this process. You know what? Weight loss surgery to me is not for everyone.
No.
But when I talked to medical doctors and they were talking about people who have the disease of obesity, the disease, in other words, it's not, it's out of your control. And I think people who are extremely obese, who are literally this close to the end of their life, if they don't do something,
Right.
sometimes they don't have another choice. That is their choice, if they can do it, right? If they can afford it, or whatever means they can do it. Personally, as a coach, I want to support anyone, no matter what their journey is. But I ask them, please keep an open mind.
Yes.
Because as we get older, things change. Our bodies change, right? If you don't get it in the up now, next thing you know, diabetes and all these other things are going to come on. And will you be able to reverse them? I don't know. Like in your case, you reversed diabetes, right?
Yes. Thank God, man. Oh my.
Isn't that amazing?
And I think that was the end game for me.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of something for me, because when my doctor was like, okay, your A1C levels are here and you're pre-diabetic, so we've got to do something now. And now we're putting you on this medicine and this metformin, and the light clicked on, and I was like, you're going to graduate to insulin, full-blown insulin,
yeah,
in a year or so if you don't make the necessary changes. And sure enough, I didn't even change then. I started out with a low dosage, about 250 milligrams.
Yeah.
It took me getting up to 750 milligrams of metformin to finally say, okay, enough is enough. Let's change this. I had the surgery. 3 months later, A1C level plummeted. And I was, within normal range. And I was so happy, because I have so many family members that suffer from diabetes. Some have died. Some have lost limbs, eyesight.
I have a friend that's getting part of his leg amputated today. Yeah.
See,
it's sad.
It's very sad what it does to the body. And I just think that if we could help somebody, to not even make it down this road.
Absolutely.
And what you said something about people that need to get weight loss surgery. And I know a lot of people frown upon it, but you got to think, when people are in life or death situations, a person like myself, person like you, Daryl, I didn't have time to go and start a diet and, the normal way that people say, I like to say the normal way, where you're 1 to 2 pounds a week, you lose. Yep. That's the healthy way. I didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
I needed to lose a rapid amount of weight.
Yeah.
With this tool that was given when I had the surgery.
That's what it is, a tool.
It was a tool, and it helped me get into a healthier state so that I could live. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. I'm going back to mindset for a moment here, because when I decided that I'm making a change, I didn't know I had a surgery date. Matter of fact, I thought that boat had come and gone, because it had been since 2003. And so some things happened, which I'll explain later on in the Transformation Summit about my story. But when that light turned on, that mindset changed, that was it. So I started intermittent fasting, and I lost 60 pounds right away. And then I got a phone call to come and be part of an orientation. And what was interesting was, out of all the people that were there was probably 25 or so people there. Hey, and I was not the smallest guy. I mean, the biggest guy, sorry. I wasn't the biggest guy. I was like, whoa. And so they were talking about, okay, in order to do this, there were some requirements. You had to stop smoking. You had to stop drinking alcohol, and you had to stop drinking soda pop. Cedric, there were people that left that orientation because they were not willing to give up those things.
Wow.
Yeah. I was shocked. I'm like, my goodness, these people are closer to the edge than I am. But obviously, that mindset wasn't there yet for them. No. I really hope and pray that those people have come to their senses since then, because really the journey is worth it. Trust me, folks, the journey is worth it.
The
Um,
journey is definitely worth it. It's fulfilling. It's tough. Like
it's
my
tough.
dad used to tell me, it's hard, but it's fair.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
definitely fulfilling. It pulls on your heartstrings because I think that to watch yourself and to where you started at, and then as you go along the journey, and then when you get to where we are in the maintenance phase, and you can reflect on how you got here now. It's
yes,
mind blowing. It's definitely
yeah,
mind blowing, and it tells me that I could do it. But I think that I'm a person that believes in things that happen when they're supposed to happen.
right, right.
I failed a lot so that I could succeed today
Hmm.
and be able to help somebody else because it didn't stop with that, Daryl. And I'm sure if you've been following, my journey, you saw that. And this is why it's so important for us to help other people because if you could cut off some things that because having weight loss surgery, it doesn't absolve you or give you complete absolution from things that could be hidden health wise that could come out later on in life.
Absolutely.
Point in case, November I go for my routine physical. I'm feeling fine. I'm fit. I'm 218 pounds. I'm bouncing into the doctor's office. I go in for my physical. They do an EKG, and she's like, "Hey, Kedric, something's going on with your heart. I need to send you. I want you to go and do this heart calcification test,
Right.
and let's go from there." So I go and I get they send my numbers back, and she red flags emails me. She's like, Kedric, hey, that score was a 506. That's extremely high. We've got to get you over to a cardiologist. So I'm like, okay, so just she knows how I am. I'm like, Doc, lay it on me. What does that mean? She's like, well, I'm afraid to tell you. It looks like early onset heart disease. I'm like, oh, we're not claiming nothing. I'm paranoid because I'm a heavy worrier. So she sets me up with a cardiologist who's actually her friend. They're colleagues and they're friends. So I'm in good hands. I go over to the cardiologist. They do a nuclear stress test, an echocardiogram. I go back for those results, and he's like, well, the stress test didn't really take good. It came back abnormal. I was like, what? He was like, so you're not having any chest pains or anything like that. You lost the weight. We could either wait
Yeah.
3 months or so and we can revisit it, or we could do a heart catheterization, and that'll tell us everything. That we can go in, through the artery. It's an extreme type of test, but we can see where blockage is and know what we need to do. I said, you know what? Let's do it because I don't want to wait. I don't want to waste any time. And,
Yeah.
I don't want to, lay around and then next thing you know, I had a heart attack and I could have prevented it. So let's go. Let's get it done. So
Yeah.
just last week, I had my heart cath lab done, and thank God that the blockage was minimal. The plaque that I had, it could be treated medicinally, and I've been taking cholesterol medicine. My cholesterol was down
Yeah.
and low enough, so I could actually reverse some of the plaque buildup. But
Excellent.
that's just to say though that could have went way differently. Say I was still 461 pounds there,
Oh yeah.
we'd
Yeah.
be having a different story. We'd be having a
Yeah.
different end game to this story right now. I know this for a
Absolutely.
fact.
And
If
you
I
know
would,
what? Really, it comes down to quality of life, doesn't it? Because hey, there are people that they look amazing, right? They're fit and everything. Next thing you know, they drop dead of a heart attack or
yes,
cancer. I mean, there's a lot of things that take out people besides obesity. But one thing that I've noticed is, man, my quality of life now is
way different.
so different. And if all I did was extend my life an extra couple of years, man,
You
I'm good with that.
right, absolutely. Because those are years that you didn't have that you took away from yourself
Exactly. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
overweight.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to one of the other speakers, and we were talking about how specifically women, mostly, how they are so focused on the family that they neglect themselves
Mm.
to the point of detriment to their own health, right? And the reality is we have family that um, they want us to be around a long time.
Yes.
So at what point do we start taking our own health seriously and going, okay, now's the time to make a difference, right?
Oh yeah,
Now
absolutely.
we're running out of time here. I think we can go into a bonus session, but what would be the first step for someone that's watching right now in terms of changing their mindset? What would that look like to you?
First step, you've got to find out your why.
Yeah.
What and in finding out your why, that's going to include what do you have to live for.
Yeah.
And that could be, you got wife, husband, spouse, partner, kids, family, siblings, people that are depending on you.
Absolutely, man. I'm so excited you said that, because I'm going to be talking in the summit here about touching base with your superpower, bringing out your superpower, and a huge part of that is discovering your why. But sometimes your why isn't enough,
right?
And I'll tell you why. I'll say this again when I talk a little later in the Transformation Summit.
Yeah.
Is I had several times in my life, like for instance in our charity, I have a story about a little girl named Christian Joy who was 4.5 years old, and she was very ill. And some missionary friends of ours, they're Americans. The family brought her to them because they didn't know what to do. If you don't have money, you have no medication, can't go to the hospital. So they took her to the hospital and they administered some medication. And overnight, she vomited 4 pounds of worms. Her body weight was reduced to 18 pounds. Now, the family were very happy and grateful because now she's getting medical care. So the next morning, our friends went there to visit them. And they had left for lunch. And around lunchtime or so, the little girl had absolutely no energy. But she summoned her mom to come by her bedside. And she whispered in her mom's ear. She said, "Mama, I'm going to go for a walk in a very far place." And minutes later, she died in her mother's arms. As my friend said, the gates of heaven opened and this little one just was ushered into the presence of the Lord. I sat there and I wept. And I said, why does this happen in today's world?
Right.
That was 2010. And back then they said 9 busloads of children, of kindergarten children, die every day because of bad water. You know what? It really hasn't changed a whole lot. Now it's 2022. So that little girl became my why. But even though she was my why in terms of our charity, and she's still my why to want to help kids, right? Every child deserves clean water. But here I was getting heavier and heavier, being more challenged to get in and out of the field. But I didn't make the change. And then other things happened. But it was a culmination of different things. And then I'll get to it in my story later on in the summit, where these things all collided together and it was like, pow, bang. My mindset was like changed. And this is before weight loss surgery. So at that point, had I not gotten weight loss surgery, I would have still been on this journey. It would have taken me longer. Absolutely. But I am grateful for weight loss because I've learned a lot in terms of being paired with a dietitian, nutritionalist. And you know what? I want to talk a little more about that in a breakout session with you. Okay. But right now, so all of the people that are watching this, if they want to get a hold of you or follow you, what's the best way that they can do that, Kedric?
Oh, absolutely. Most people follow me on Instagram. I'm on there at Sleeved Believe the Hype, all one word. And I say that because there used to be a song that said, "Don't believe the hype." But in my case, I want you to believe all the hype. So it's Sleeved Believe.
That's awesome.
And that's where that comes from. I want, because I want people, they look at us and they're like, "Oh, no, that's not real. That didn't happen," or they're lying somewhere. No, this is real life. Yeah. You can do it too, and that's where you can find me at there. You can find me also. I host the Sleeve Believe the Hype podcast. That's a podcast dedicated to weight loss surgery. I have a guest on every episode, whether it's a dietitian or somebody from the weight loss community. We discuss the journey and just talk about all the ups and downs and what we go through on our journey. So that is on all major streaming platforms, be it Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast fix. You can find it there. That's
we'll drop it in the chat so that people can see that. And anyone that has the All Access Pass, of course, you'll get all the links in the membership section. Anyways, Kedric, this has been a wonderful time. It's been great meeting you and following you for sure, because you are definitely the real deal. And I know everyone likes that. They like real people, right? Talking
Absolutely.
about real stories and real issues and support, right? Because we can't do this without a great support system. That's
No,
my experience. I'm sure it's
that's
yours as well.
oh yeah, that's the biggest thing. And you know, when you do change your mindset, you definitely change the game. And I like to relate that to sports, because you know sometimes teams go in at halftime and they're down, and they probably down on themselves. But if they got a good coach and he gets inside that mind there,
Yeah.
and everybody's mindset changes and they're on the same page, guess what? Then that's when the game changes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
games are won what in the fourth quarter defense.
Absolutely. Hey, we've got a hockey team up here called the Canucks.
Oh
And
yes.
just recently, they let go the manager and the coaches and brought on an older coach. He's 67 years old, but he's like an icon in hockey. When he
Mm-hmm.
came on, bang, they won like 6 in a row.
See,
Just
that's it.
isn't that something?
That's it. And
Yeah,
that's how you got to look at it. You got to
yeah,
take that approach, and it all starts with education. I
it
think,
does.
and
Yeah,
that's the main key to
yeah,
everything. And my last 2 points is everything works well, and this is in life in general, with balance and moderation.
yes,
That's anything that you do.
exactly. Well, listen, Kedric, thank you for your time, and I'm sure we will stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, and follow Kedric online.